If you're waiting till spring to get your trees and the other things you want planted, you are missing the boat, nephew. There are so many things you can do right now this time of year to get you off and running. So when spring rolls around, your trees and shrubs are absolutely exploding. Now this is an exciting day for me. Number one, the sun's shining, no streaks in the sky. It's 40 something degrees and I'm out here in a t-shirt because that's the beauty of living at this altitude. Very low humidity, which means you don't need to wear much to stay warm. You gotta love that. All right, so here we are in one of the areas that is one of the last that we've worked on making that transition to what you see over here at my neighbor's place, which is all that nasty, thickety silvergrass, into what I'm standing on right now, which is in transition. Okay, it's not perfect yet. It's not like the rest of the orchards we put in around here, but it's on the way. Okay, so let's just kind of take a quick field trip. We got some trees up and down here. We got some down the way. We got some of the spent hay that got moldy. Well, you can't feed it to your animals. Well, your trees can definitely be fed with it. And then as we roll through here, because of the area that it is highly bacterial dominated, or at least was. And now we're transitioning into a fungal environment. You doubt me? Well, take a look over here. You see all those thorns and thistles, silvergrass, all these things that are just every indication in the world that your soil's jacked up from the feet up. Well, guess what? You don't see it right here, do you? You can literally see it stop right here on the property line. Now, we'll cover more of that in a later video, but right now, we've got to be thinking about those things we can do right now to keep A, this at bay, but B, to go ahead and make that transition from a jacked up, thorny, thickety place that it was that had to be cleared by pigs, and then ultimately us, into something that feeds the trees, that we can really have something of a laissez-faire approach to our orcharding around here. Well, today, we are going to plant something that is absolutely, positively beneficial right where I'm standing. What you see here, basically this row of trees is like an offset pattern, like a die, is the next step in a new part of our property. Well, in another part of our property that's going to be turned into a permaculture orchard. As we've talked before, we use basically the pattern of my friend and hero and mentor, Stefan Subkowiak. You can find his YouTube channel down below. If you want to know anything about trees, that is the guy you go to. One of my biggest mentors in this space. Okay, so we got basically a permaculture orchard here. We got 2 fruiting trees, or let's say, and then every third tree is going to be a nitrogen fixer. Well, we're going to do it a little bit differently over here. We're doing a lot of experiments over here that'll unfold in time. Well, instead of a tree per se, we're going to put something over here that's maybe a little bit different. And that's my buddy right here. And this is called sea buckthorn. It's basically a nitrogen fixing shrub that for all intents and purposes will act as something of a tree in this area. Okay. So we've talked about it before. We got black locust. We got all kinds of nitrogen fixers all up and down here. False indigo, you name it. All throughout here. This is just another way of getting another nitrogen fixer. And for those that don't know, it's taking atmospheric nitrogen and putting it down into the soil for the benefit of all of our productive trees up and down here. And this is the star of the show today. So for all of you people that are waiting for spring to roll around, for all your nurseries and stuff to get in stock so you can start planting, you're kind of putting yourself behind the 8 ball when you do that. Let me tell you why. One of the things I learned from Stefan, and also one of the people that has inspired him, and that was Dr. Whitcomb out of Oklahoma State University. Myself and I think Eric Sider have also read his work. And we find out that when you plant trees and shrubs in the fall, basically when all the leaves are off, all your deciduous trees out there, when we plant that in the fall, what it's doing is kicking down all of those roots throughout the rest of that fall and all into the winter. And so it's done all of this legwork. So when spring rolls around, this thing is ready to blow up from the feet up. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So as far as planting, right here is where it's going to go. So let's go ahead and get hot on showing you how we do that. Okay, right here is a tree. This was a site of a tree that didn't make it, okay? Now, the beauty about certain trees like this buckthorn and other nitrogen fixers is you're going to find out that when you plant these guys, they require a whole lot less attention. Not saying that you just completely just put them in the ground and walk away, although in many cases you can. But this over here was a fruit-bearing tree that didn't make it, so who knew you anyway? Let me tell you something else, y'all. All of this area over here was nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, but very hard clay. And as you can see, this stuff has become so much more loamy based on all the things that we've done in this work over here. Okay, so now we're getting into more of what the soil looked like before. I mean, stuff like this. This is what it all looked like, and as you can look at it now, this stuff is off and running. So, why on earth am I picking this shrub instead of a tree or anything else? Well, first of all, we don't have any sea buckthorn out here. Like I said, it's a nitrogen fixer, but it's also one of those great nitrogen fixers that you can eat. It's also one of those great nitrogen fixers that produces stuff that is high in vitamins that maybe you may not be able to find in this modern world. You dig? So let your plants be thy medicine. I'll just put a little twist on that. So these guys are going to produce some berries, and some of them, depending on the varieties, are going to be orange. They're going to be a variety of other colors as well, depending on the cultivar. Now, in this particular case, we got a female, and we're going to plant another female over here. You know, you girls like to stick together, but you got to have a male around too. Yeah. So we'll just kind of loosen it up in this pot, and I don't know what this thing's going to look like when we get it out of here. Okay, it's not as root bound as I thought. Now we're just going to bust it up a little bit. And like I said, if you need any specific guidance on this, be sure to check out my man Stefan over there at the Permaculture Orchard. Like I said, we'll link his channel down below. All right, so we got this guy about where we want him right here. Soil is already light years better than it was. And we're going to go ahead and kind of, well, I think I need a little bit down below, so we're going to raise it up just a tad. Plus, with the mulch ring that I'm going to put around this thing, I'm going to want to put a little bit more in there than I currently have. So let's see what we got right here. Yep, that's what we want. Now, hey, here's another little trick I got from my man Stefan. See this box here? It could be a regular piece of cardboard. When you go to plant a tree or a shrub, folks, I know the natural thing you want to do is just dig it out of the hole, put it on the ground. And then when you go to put it back in the hole, it's all mixed up in whatever you have around it, whether it's grass, you name it. Well, when you do it this way, guess what? It's all self-contained right here in this box. And that's exactly how I'm going to roll with it. Bam! How you like me now? Now, if this were a regular fruit-bearing tree that might struggle around here, I might go ahead and put some of my compost around here. But like I said, with nitrogen fixers generally around here, man, they just grow. I mean, you don't really need to do much to them. All right, let me talk about the next method I'm going to use here. And this is one I invented, or at least I think I did. If anybody else has done it, I don't know about it. Well, anyway, we got our box here. Same box we use to capture all that soil. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to make that little Y in the middle of it, just like so. I'm going to run my knife through it all the way across. And all I'm going to do is cut a Y in it. And I'm just going to kind of score it on that side. And I'm going to leave it attached. Now, I know you can't tell in the video here, but the ground slopes this way. So when you do this, and it also helps a great deal when you have a rain event, a high rain event, I'm going to make sure the slit in this is facing down on the downhill side. So if it should shift, it's going to catch right there. But 9 times out of 10, this thing ain't going nowhere. So all I'm going to do at this point, just take a little bit more of this cardboard. And now this thing has holes in it. And I'm just going to kind of cover it up. And plus I got cardboard. I can usually go about three of them deep. And I'm just going to tear it up. And then just find a spot for it all the way around here. All right, let me tell you what time it is next. Okay, I got some of this wood mulch that I get from the local college, okay? And this stuff is fantastic. I mean, they've been digging some out of there, so this stuff is definitely punchy. So all I'm gonna do, just like we do with all the others, I'm thinking I'm gonna need about 3 or 4. I go heavy, heavy, heavy on the mulch. Now, ordinarily I would have watered before now, but I do in fact live in a rainforest. And so you wanna make sure you water these things in. Right here, it's not that big a deal, and we'll hit it here and after a little while. You don't necessarily have to watch me do that. Now, why see buckthorn? I mean, what are some of the other virtues? One of my most popular, I think it is the most popular video I've ever done, is perimeter security for a homestead. Okay, when this thing grows up, it's gonna be thorny. You think that might be a virtue for you? Yeah, it would if I was wanting to make something that was probably, let's say I wanted to hide the rest of my food forest or the orchard I have downstream of it. It's virtue because this thing is going to get very wide and bushy, and it's also going to get about, some of them get up to 20 feet tall and bushy as well. You think you might see that as a virtue when it comes to security at your homestead? This might be something you put on the outside of everything to hide everything else on the inside, you dig? Another cool thing, this thing is like uber, I know I kind of halfway mentioned it before, but I want to put an exclamation point on the fact that this thing is uber high in vitamin C and a number of other vitamins and minerals. And check this out, the better your soil, just like the old late great Masanobu Fukuoka says, the better your soil, the better your harvest, the better the quality of your fruit, the better everything it's going to be. So we want to make sure we get all this put together. But the cool thing about this is that it's adding another layer of, you want variety. I mean, look out in nature. I mean, if you just look out there behind me, I know you're not going to see it real tight and close, but look at what nature does. And maybe you want to take it home and replicate it, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do out here in my food forest and my orchards. I'm putting a wondrous piece of variety and everything else you can imagine out there, because that's what I see in nature. There's not just a monocrop of anything out there, so I definitely don't want that in any orchard or food forest I'm going to have. Folks, this thing, like I said, it's thorny nature, could be used as a hedge, very drought tolerant. Also, another cool thing is that this thing will hang on the soil, and I mean hang on to it big time. I mean, not to the extent that bamboo would, but honestly, that's another great virtue that this fantastic shrub has. Plus, it's part of that 7 layers of a food forest. Here's my shrub layer, which in this area is probably going to act like more of a tree layer. But this is one fantastic thing, and y'all, and I am excited beyond words to be able to add this. And I think we got 4 more that we're going to put out here, and we're going to get that all done. Y'all, this is just the beauty and the blessing of being able to do this work. But remember, you don't have to wait till spring before you get off and running doing this stuff. You can get it all done right now. So when spring rolls around, how much further ahead are you going to be from all the other people out there that are waiting for the nursery to get you off and running? So find those places out there that you can get all your, I mean, there's a lot of good places. You could probably get some bare root stuff right now. These are in pots, and these were what was available at the present moment. But I'm looking forward to this bad boy off and running. Now, the only thing left to do for me to, look, I'm not even going to kid around, y'all. The only thing left for me to do, and I won't do it on camera, well, is water, which I've already talked about. And also, the most important thing is to bless. Thank the Almighty for all the wonderful blessings He's given us, and to ask the Lord to bless this tree, just like we do all the others around here. All right, y'all. Hopefully, this was a blessing to you. We'll do some subsequent updates as to how this thing unfolds and all the other things we got coming in too. But think about it. We're not going to just plant this thing in isolation. Remember, we're going to put a guild around it. And one of the key things in that guild is going to be the comfrey we talk about all the time. Dynamic accumulator. We use it for everything from feeding our animals to feeding our trees. And if you need any, we got it at the website along with the world's best deer repellent, Bone Sauce. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time, and thank you so much for your support.